Welcome Tularcitos families. This is Ryan Peterson, principal at Tularcitos. Just for anybody who's new to Tular that doesn't know me, I've been lucky enough to be at Tular 9 years now, and it is a fabulous place to be. It has been a total blessing to be a part of this district, to be at this site, to be with this staff and with our families and with our students. And those of you who are new, we'll find that out in a very different way than our normal year. But it has been an honor to be here, and just want to thank all of you for your continued support, for being understanding during these times, and working with us as we try to figure out how to start school in this distance learning model and figure out what our new normal is going to be. Before I start the presentation, just want to really quick let people know, I know in my original communication, I said that we were going to submit questions via chat. Lucky enough for us, we've got enough tech support with us now for tonight that we will be taking questions live. So no need to do anything in the chat. You can just leave it there. Don't worry about it. We'll be taking questions live at the end. And Ms. Trisha Zarevich will come on and let you know what to do about that. And I also want to just thank those people in the background that none of you see right now. Trisha Zarevich, Michelle Mahaney, Rob Perry from the district office. They are tirelessly working behind the scenes to help us get school up and going and make things possible. So thank you to all of you. And then also to Miss Kim in our office. She's in the background too right now. And I know that all of you know how wonderful she is. We wouldn't be our great school without her. And so thank you, Miss Kim. A big hand wave to you. And thank you to everybody who submitted questions ahead of time. So if you see a little difference in the slides tonight from what I sent out, that's why. I tried to incorporate a few of the questions that came in. I've got a few notes that I'll try to get to as well. It was interesting. About 5 minutes ago, I wasn't nervous, and now I am. And it's interesting because I think going into this time, there's a lot of nerves out there. And I know that teachers are feeling it more so than anybody as they try to get ready for school and figure out how to do this. And it's a totally new thing for all of us. And so I just want to acknowledge that and know that we all have grace for one another, and yeah, just hope that we can continue to extend that to each other through this process, and realize that as school starts and we start to put in place the things that I'm presenting tonight, it's all new, and the people putting them on in your classroom and your teachers, it's an all new setting, and the nerves are real, and we're bound to fumble and we're bound to make mistakes, but that's how we learn. And so looking forward to that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And so all of you know kind of our little motto, nurturing hearts, expanding minds, broadening horizons, and inspiring actions. That has not changed. That will continue to be where we're focused throughout this year, starting with nurturing hearts. We know we're gonna have to spend a lot of time developing those relationships with kids, really building those connections. That's just not easy through Zoom. But our teachers are masters at building connections. I have no question. In my mind, they'll be able to do that. Expanding minds, having kids learn a ton this year, and broadening horizons, exposing them to new things, and inspiring actions is going to be something new. Hopefully you parents at home will be the beneficiaries of a lot of that, though, because a lot of the applications to what they can do to make the day better for someone else is going to directly apply to their home and their small community around them. One of the things that has been my motto, I know is in my communication, but really looking at this time as worries to what ifs. What if going into this time is the year we've been waiting for? What if this is our chance as educators to really refine and hone in our curriculum and our instructional practices, how we can differentiate to meet the kids' needs, what we can do to really actively engage their minds and hearts and souls into what they're learning during this time. And what if this is a time where families can draw even closer together when they're not running around from one thing to the next, and you can really build those connections at home. And what if this is what our kids need too, to be more independent and self-motivated learners. I can imagine how this time and having to be more in charge of themselves as learners is really going to give them some skills that will set them up for success in the future. Our agenda for tonight, we're going to talk very briefly about the legal requirements for distance learning, the things that we're having to do. the kind of the new normal school day. This will not look anything like we had in spring. It will not look like anything any of us has ever experienced before, unless you're new and you came from some other place that has done distance learning. But it is our new normal school day. And so, and the thing with that too is to know that how we start the year and everything we have to put in place is not necessarily what things will look like 3 weeks later. In a normal school year, when you start the year, we spend a lot of time putting together routines, building relationships. That will take that just a little bit longer to put those in place. And so, what we start with the first week, the second week, will not be what school is like when we get to mid-September or October, right? It's going to be, well, who knows in October, but it won't be what the regular time is. We'll go over the weekly calendar, how we plan on supporting students and you parents, or both of you, if you're all watching at home. And then what you can expect with the first days back. I think it's also important to point out what this is not. This is not a presentation. This is all going to be about distance learning. I'm not going to get into the hybrid models at all. We want to commit everything that we can to now to the distance learning and what we're doing there. And then as we get that rolling and we've got time to really plan out the hybrid model and what that's going to look like when it comes time for that, then we'll present at that time. So it's not going to be about hybrid model. And it's also not going to get into hyper specifics. This is not going to be like a back to school presentation where you're going to see the exact schedule for your student for the day or the week and what to expect and how the teacher's going to interact with your kid and all the different instructional strategies that they're going to use. This is going to stay at a pretty high level. All of you that have multiple kids know that educating a kindergartner is drastically different than educating a fifth grader. And so to try to cover that, and the time that I have is going to be hard enough with just the broad strokes. Some things to know if you don't already know SB 98, the requirements of the law, just a few highlights. The link on the bottom here, if you go to the presentation on our website, you can see a little more detail there, but that students need to have daily live interaction with certificated employees and their peers. That's something that we know is valuable and needed for a student's education. That's something required by law. We have to meet the instructional time minutes, which is 3 hours in kindergarten, 3 hours and 50 minutes for grades 1 through 3. Not quite sure why the 50 minutes, but and then 4 hours for grades 4 through 12. So, and then something to know, and this is a big one, and this is could be a hard one too for families. Attendance in the school day is required. We're required to take attendance. Students are required to be there. I'm going to talk about what that will look like when we get into the schedule. But this is not going to be like spring. This is not going to be a time where we, give you packets of things to work on and you're working independently and you're checking in with teachers as you can. This is going to be school. This is going to be showing up every morning for school. This is going to be participating in the lessons and the work and turning things in and interacting with your teacher and your peers. So it is going to be school and attendance is required. What the day will look like. A few things to know. There will be a common platform that we'll get into, but at 9 o'clock, the day starts. Students will come to class, they'll log into the Google Classroom. We'll prepare you all for that. Don't worry yet, parents and students. They'll do some sort of morning meeting, check in with the kids, take attendance, make sure everybody know what to expect for that day. And then between 9 and 12 will be the core academic time. Students after the morning meeting may stay logged into class to get small group instruction or be directed to what they need to do next. Or they might be sent off to do something to come back in a little bit. And so what happens next will kind of depend on the day and the instruction that needs to happen. And how much time they need to be on the screen or how much time they're going to be working independently. Teachers are going to need to be able to put things together to be what's best practice. During the time in 9 to 12, teachers are going to facilitate the instruction, the learning, small groups, big groups, whole class, one-on-one. You will see that there will be posted videos for the whole class mini lessons. The small group will really be with the teacher, but if something's going to be posted for the whole class, we're really trying to go with the videos for the whole class so that you as parents can also watch those as well. Like I said, there'll be independent work time. We're social emotional learning, as all of you know, character education, I should have put that on there too, is huge. And so there'll still be our social emotional lessons. We'll still be focusing on those skills that our students need. Snack will be sometime in morning. We didn't want to tie teachers in, especially at the beginning of the year, and especially thinking kindergartens that may need a snack or a break every half hour, 40 minutes, right? And then the fifth graders who could go a little longer. So snack will be organized by the teacher. Lunchtime for everybody will be 12 to 12:40. And then after that time will be time for specials. The computer, Spanish, music, PE, science will all alternate weeks between synchronous and asynchronous, meaning live instruction with the teacher on Zoom for part of it, at least. It won't be the whole time, but part of it, and then interacting with that teacher some. And then another time would be something where they would just be assigned. When we put all the specials in an hour and 20-minute time slot, they can't be in all places at once. Our library, the great news is we are figuring out a way for students to check out books from our library. So that will be coming. Students won't be allowed to come in the library to look through the stacks, but we will find a way to get them books. And so, and then their lessons will be all posted online for students to view. And art and garden, we're still figuring it out. And there's some exciting things going on with our specialists and trying to team teach some things. And so, and then the last thing to know too is that for the kindergartners, will be 9 to 12. And then pretty much their day will be over there, but we are going to provide extra support for students as needed. Either small group, one-on-one, extra support for kindergartners after lunchtime. So the materials, this was, I know, a big question from parents. What do I need to do? Where are you giving me a Chromebook or not? All the students will get their own Chromebooks from the district. So we will provide that. We are working, I know that head of our district tech department, our chief technology officer, Mr. Bean, is sending out communications. If you see something from him, you want to open it. You want to look at that text. That is going to be important. And so if you are having trouble with internet, he is sending out links. We'll have a place on the website where you can go make sure you're connected. We want to make sure we're reaching every single one of our families and giving everybody access. That is extremely important to us and required by law that we do it. And so, but we need you to reach back to us as well. And then one thing to know, thank you to our generous PTO. As every year, I know we don't know what our PTO is going to look like yet. We've been talking about how they can really help facilitate the school-wide community and connections even virtually, and how we can continue to support our students and our families. But they're giving money to our teachers so that teachers can make sure to send all the supplies you need home with you, so that you don't need to worry about that even at home. And then to know that there will be regular material pickups as designated by grade levels. We're not going to do the massive ones that we did before, except for the first one. But after the first one, it'll be designed by grade levels on an as needed basis, so that we can get you actual paper materials, because we know we don't want to put kids so they're doing everything on the screen. All of you who've been here for a while know that. I am a big tech fan, and I believe there should be restrictions on and boundaries and put on tech use. I know we're in a new time, but that's important to us to find that way of juggling, balancing is not the right word, but making the most of the tech so that we don't have to use it so we can use it as little as we can or need to. The Bobcat Day organization, like I said, we'll pushing everything out through Google Classroom. That will be your one-stop shop. Teacher access to teachers, videos, online content, assignments, links, everything will be there. The nice thing is I will show you in a second. There will be a weekly calendar when you log into Google your students' Google Classroom. It'll be right there, ready to go. That will be everything you need. The teachers are going to link everything through that. We heard you loud and clear, and the teachers felt it too, that we don't want students going looking this place for one thing, that place for the other. We needed that one-stop shop for families and students that they could go to and basically be in class. And so instruction, grade levels will be working very closely as teams. They'll be creating shared content. every grade level will be following the same calendar each week. So if you're in third grade, while you might be in Mr. G's class, you may see Mrs. Ogata delivering the math lesson in a videotape, in a recorded video. You might see Mrs. Parker delivering a writing lesson, or Mrs. Golden delivering a social studies lesson. You will have your teacher to interact with, but working as teams to share the load is something we have to do. There's a rule in distance education, or online distance education, 10 to 1, or I do 5 to 50. 5 minutes of what a teacher can do in 5 minutes in the classroom takes 50 minutes online. And so we have to share the load, which is great because it also puts all of our students in the same place, which makes it easier for you at home too, as well. And I know we'll talk about the quarantining or the potting a little bit later. But just know too, we are working hard to try to make sure that our activities are varied through the day, so the students have a lot of different things that they're engaged with, to keep them with the teacher and engaged in what they're learning. The aides will be supporting teachers in the classroom this year with small group and individual work. We will not be doing the online tutoring that we did at the end of last year. That was a question that came out a few times in the people that submitted ahead of time. And this is one thing we're really working on, trying to figure out how do we make sure that we're giving students feedback and assessing their work in a really timely way, so that they know how they're doing, the teachers knows how they're doing, you as parents know how they're doing. Like I said, that's easy to do in a classroom with the kids in front of you. We can very quickly get a read on where students are at. It's harder on Zoom. And so that's something we're working hard to do. But for parents to also know, your students will get a report card at the end of each trimester. We'll be assessing them. We will be monitoring their progress. This is school, and it's going to continue as such. The calendar, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted to give it to you without the scribbles that I'll show you next. But you can see on the calendar that every day you will click on one link to join the room, to come to class. And then between 9 and 12, you'll see the instruction. This will all be different for different grades, and what this looks like. And then you'll see down here after lunch, you'll see all the specials and some small group work or whatever the teachers need to do to follow up on the day's activities. What I want to do is let you know, parents, kind of what we're envisioning for how you would access this. Like I said, you'll join the room every day here. And then after that, you'll see what's coming next. And all of these underlined parts will be links to the materials or the class lessons that the students need that day. It could take them to a video. It might be that when they click in and join the room, the teacher will let them know, I need you to stay here and I'm going to pull you into a breakout room. Or students, I'm going to put you in the waiting room right now while you read your book. And then in 15 minutes, I'm going to pull you out of the waiting room so that I can give you your mini lesson while the other students are doing another activity. So we're really trying to design the day so that they are in school, they are with us, and design the day so that we can honestly, in the beginning, parents, we need your help, especially in the primary. We're going to need your help to get them going, to set the right routines in place, to know how to do things. But our goal is to eventually, over time, make them as independent as we possibly can in school, in your home, so that you're not having to sit there and do everything with them. And then on the bottom, you'll be able to click right into the special for the day. Something to know is Wednesdays will be the special day where you have 2 specials in a row. And the reason is, like I said, there's so much more planning that has to go into this right now for our teachers, that we needed to keep that collaboration time. This is a time that they normally have during the week, but it's spread out and you don't know it as a family because it's when the kids are in specials at school. But we needed to keep this. The teachers are going to need a lot of time. They are having to revamp entire curriculums, and do that on a continual basis throughout the year. And so they need a lot of that extra planning time so that they can make sure that what you're getting in instruction is the best quality it can be. So student support, we will continue to have counseling with wonderful Miss Amy. She was a huge support for a lot of you back in the spring that were dealing with some hard times in students and reaching out to individuals. She will continue her support with some small group counseling, push-in lessons in the classroom, very limited one-on-one times. The social emotional state of our children is extremely important, and we want to make sure to continue to address those needs. We'll still be offering math and reading support. This was a question I got on the people that submitted prior to. What's that look like? You said it was still getting worked out. We are still working it out. We have significantly shortened the day that we normally have them at school. And so we're trying to figure out how best to provide the extra math and reading support to our students, given the fact that the day is that much shorter when they're at school. And so we are committed to this and we're going to make it work. I just don't have a time yet on how much of that's going to be potentially time in the classroom or potentially time before school or after school. I don't know yet, but I do know that our intervention teachers are excited to get to work, excited to work with kids. It won't just be an online paced program. It'll be working with teachers. We will still continue our student success team meetings. When students are struggling, we will pull those together and make sure kids are on track, and parents, you're part of that process when we hold those. We still have designated an ELD, an integrated ELD time for our language learners. We still, for special ed, all of the case carriers for students in special ed, the case carriers will be contacting you parents and putting together a distance learning plan and what it looks like to follow your IEP in a time of distance learning. So that is going to be all individualized. And then attendance support. We realize that it's easier to have students at school when you can drop them off at school and they want to be here. It's harder if they're at home and they're just not engaging in this distance learning format. And so we will be working with families and students to make sure that the students are engaged and they're showing up for school. Parent support. I know a lot of you are hoping to probably have some of that. We will have online instructional videos for parents available for the programs that we're using. We'll have tips to make distance learning successful. A big part of it is going to make sure you communicate with your teachers regarding issues that come up. Our district will have a help desk trouble ticket system set up for tech issues that we'll ask you to use immediately as things arise, because we want to make sure you're taken care of there. The social emotional support for family, we will be hosting parent support groups. I know some of you participated in those in spring and found them invaluable to know you're not in this alone, and there are other people with you, and other people have great ideas that you can take and make your own. We will have access to some outside services that people will possibly qualify for if you're needing significant support at home. And I would say if you're needing support at home, reach out. Don't try to go at this alone. We are all figuring this out. And so if things aren't going well, we need to partner with you to make sure they can go well. And then quarantining, this is a big question. Will we change students' classes to put kids in cohorts because parents are supporting one another, which I love. I think that's one of the benefits of this. I think we're going to have some great relationships that come out of this within our community as parents coordinate together and share childcare issues. The thing to know in this is right now, we're not going to put kids in different classes to match up with what the clusters or the pods or the quarantines that you're forming at home. The reason being is that right now we've done a good job of balancing classes and needed supports and where students need extra supports. And so, and we also know that because our grade levels are teaching as teams, it's not going to make a big difference if you're at home and you have 2 second graders with different teachers. They're going to be kind of in sync with each other through that time. We do know that when we move to a hybrid model, that quarantining is going to be key. And that's the time when we also know that because parents will be allowed to decide if they want to continue distance learning or not, we're going to have to change classes around, which will be unfortunate. Not everybody will change, but some will have to, and that's the time where we will take that into account. It's a natural time where things are going to have to change already. And then with the hybrid model, when that clustering at home is an even more valuable time, when the student's there and then at school and back and forth. And because hopefully at that time too, our area is more open and people are going back to work more too in their work settings. So we'll do that at that time. We are talking in the PTO executive board about how we can help facilitate families connecting. And so that is something that's important as well. And so the supporting your child at home, these are huge. The first, please make sure to establish a school routine. I know summertime, bedtimes are looser, wake up times are looser. We need students and families to know we're in school now. And so to actually, even though we might not start till 9, right? Set that bedtime, set that wake up time. Elementary kids need between 10 and 12 hours a day of sleep. That is when their brains get rewired. That is when the learning gets cemented in their minds. That sleep time is just as valuable as the time at school. And so set those routines for the students, make sure they're doing that. Make sure that you've got that routine of having them eat before they come to school. We want to ensure that the child comes to school ready to learn. So they need to be dressed. They need to be fed. They need to not be walking into their class at 9 o'clock with a bowl of cereal in their hand. And so a good rule of thumb is, if you couldn't do it when you came to school, you shouldn't do it when you come to school at 9. One thing that Mr. A and I are really excited about is that we are going to do something called a family fitness time, probably between 8:40 and 8:50, where we're going to have Mr. A and maybe some guests, and we'll see it. It'll be fun. But some sort of family fitness time, kind of like our morning mile, where we want to get kids, families out moving and awake and get the blood flowing to their muscles, to their brain, in their bodies, so that they are ready to learn when they show up at 9 o'clock, and to help you parents out a little bit too, to give them something to do before 9 o'clock so that they're ready to go. So Mr. A and I are going to work at trying to make that as fun as possible to get some extra motivation and students ready before 9 o'clock when the school day starts. Supporting your child at home, making sure they have a distract-free location to work every day, making sure that station is organized. And so that's going to be, they're going to need some help with that, parents, to make sure they're set up at home with what needs to happen. They're going to need help with that. The other way to support your child at home is to make sure that let your students do the work. I know, being a parent, being an educator, but even more so as a parent, when you see your child struggling, it can be easy to just want to jump in there and do it. They're at school, and we know that the struggle is where the learning happens. And so, yeah, you'll need to provide some guidance and extra support when necessary, like I said, but we need your children to do the work at home. And so they're the ones learning. They need to have that struggle. Please allow them to do that, and to rely on the teacher to help, and do your best, but don't do it for them. We need you to communicate with your child's teacher. Like I've said, our guidelines for CUSD are linked here. One of the things that's going to be hard is going to be making sure that we maintain boundaries as staff and parents, and as school and home life bleed together more and more. We need to make sure to hold those boundaries, and school be school. And I put that on there for you parents to know too, that we're going to try to engage your students at school from that 9 to 2 time. And so you inevitably, that's not going to work for all of the parents. Some of you are working, your kid's going to be with somebody else, and then you're going to come home and you're going to be working, seeing what they learned that day, and you're not going to understand it. And or some of you, the kid might be working a little bit, finishing something a little bit later. And I say that because our teachers are committed to having that communication with you. And I know some of us really struggled in spring, keeping boundaries on, and we were like, okay, 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, the parents wanting support, something's bad. And so the teacher's responding, and that's not healthy boundaries. And so I just want parents to know that we need you to communicate, but we're still going to follow our normal guidelines as if we're at school, where, the teachers have a work day. And so you can't expect an immediate response at late at night. So just know that. Two big ones, those of you who've been around a while, supporting your child at home, you need to continue to prioritize family mealtime. Nice thing is we don't have as many places to go. So hopefully this is easier, but this is where relationships are built in your home. This is invaluable time to prioritize your family meal times, to turn off the devices, to put the phones away, parents, you too, I struggle with it too. Put the phone in the basket, right? Put it on the charger, wherever you need to, so it's not with you at the screen at the mealtime. And then students are still going to need to read outside the time of 9 to 2 when they're at school, right? You need to make sure that there is that dedicated time. Try to make it a family time to do with your kids. That is going to be important. The first days of school to know. First one is class lists will be distributed virtually next Friday. Not this one, next on the August 7th. We're still figuring out exactly the easiest way to get it to all of you families to let you know who your teacher is, who's in your class, and give you a little information too on how to connect with your teacher. First day of school, even though you're not directly in it, is August 11th. That will be the Chromebook and material pickup here in Bobcat Hall from 8 to 6. We will also have online tutorials available for families to watch so they know how to get into Google Classroom, how to navigate Zoom. August 12th and 13th will be the class meet and greet. This is the really get to know you time. So kids will log into a class meeting each of those days. And then teachers are gonna set up one-on-one family contact times with all of the families in their class. This will be your chance to get a little time one-on-one with your teacher, meet them, make that connection. It also gives us the chance to make sure that we're connecting with every single student in our school. Because inevitably at this time, in this light, we wanna make sure nobody's falling through the cracks. We wanna grab everybody with us, make sure everybody's on board to start. And so this will be that time on August 12th and 13th to do that. And then there'll be some other videos that parents and students can watch to know how to navigate all the world online. August 14th, there's still no school. That was our original calendar plan. We're sticking with that. And then August 17th, kind of the regular school day starts. So this is where we'll focus in the morning and then the afternoons will be the specials. But going back to kind of that, teachers need that extra time to make sure we're starting this year off right. So in the afternoon on this week, it'll be the specials, but your morning time will be with your teachers. And then our back to school night will be August 20th virtually. So more information coming with that. Things that we're still doing. Oh, calendar, one other question that somebody asked, I thought was a good one. Are we still following the district calendar? As of right now, yes. This plan is still to follow the calendar as it's laid out. Of course, things might change, right? They do every day. Little things and big things. Little things, we just got some shipments in today of supplies and found out that some of our teachers didn't get the pencil boxes that we were gonna send home with you because our supplier ran out. So we're scrambling to find things like that too. So things are constantly changing. We're having to adjust, but right now our plan is to follow the calendar up through for sure October break, and then even the minimum days. And then after that though, we will see what life and the world throws at us. So items still being explored. This is not as much anymore, but just to know that family fitness time to get people learning. We're still exploring how are we going to build that school-wide community and connection. We know that the classroom connection is very important. We have a great school community here, and I want to keep that alive. And so we'll be discussing that. We're still figuring out what our music instrumental program will look like and how we can get instruments to kids. We're still figuring out how exactly it's going to work when a teacher is absent. Number one, you can imagine the world of subs is not plentiful. And it's a totally different setting. And so we're still trying to figure out exactly how that's going to work. And when a student is absent, we're figuring that out as well, although it's a little bit easier because the work's already there online, and catching up's actually a little bit easier for parents. But so we're still working that out. And we're always continually trying to find ways of improving. Like I said earlier, hopefully how we start is not 3 weeks later is not how we're going to continue to go, because we will continue to get better at what we're doing. And so we're going to continue to have to improve on how we're building relationships, how we're actively engaging students in the meaningful learning, how we're monitoring student progress and providing everybody feedback. Another thing, we know that you're a big part of this, families, and getting feedback from you is extremely important. And so how we're going to do that, and I know I'm probably going to be holding, I don't know if they'll be once a week or once every other week. I'm still trying to figure out what my life's going to look like, but just open Zooms where you come on, let's chat, let's talk about things, let's talk about how things are going on, so that we're hearing from you and how things are going. And then the last one that I just got covered for me, just that last quote too of remembering this is a quote that is out there quite a bit, go slow to go fast. And it's kind of that we want to make sure that things are in place to begin with so that we can make it as far as we possibly can. We know that if we rush into this year and don't take the time to teach kids how to, and parents, how to navigate systems, how to build routines in home, how to set a good foundation, we won't go as far as we can. That's normal for school. The first couple weeks of school is always normally setting routines, teaching kids how to navigate a classroom, because if those routines are in place, we save an immense amount of time later on and can really focus on the learning. That's still going to be the case even at home, for you at home and for us at school. And so that is something that's going to be important. So we are now going to open it up for questions.
I have to start with the phrase, it's a great day at Tularcitos. So our first person up is going to be Mira. Mira, if you'll unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Mira.
Ryan, it's really nice to see you again.
It's good to see your picture. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be nice to talk to people, but I'm looking forward to seeing people.
We really miss school. We really trust Tularcitos, and you know, we're pretty devastated that everything's online. I appreciate this presentation. I'm curious if you guys are also going to be having children do homework. It sounds like they're going to be online all day. Do you expect them to do homework and special projects like they would if they were in a regular school day?
So we realized that we're going to have kids online. They're going to be really active during that 9 to noon. At the same time, we know different kids learn at different rates. And so we're really trying to make sure that what we're assigning during the time we have them is what they need to master, what they need to do and know. So, you know, I say that inevitably some kids might take a little longer. We do know that reading is going to be outside of that 2 o'clock time. That's going to have to happen. And there may be some other things. I know we've done a lot of work prior to this about making sure that homework is minimal and meaningful, right? That basically it's just really what the kids need to make sure they're learning. And so we're going into under that same umbrella, but knowing that we don't want it, we're not going to be heaping more work on top of it. But some students may have something to finish after that 2 o'clock. But for sure, they will be reading after 2 o'clock. So that will be something that will definitely be there. We might also have them try some math facts. That's another thing where kids are really struggling. And we want to make sure they have time for that. So thank you, Mara, for that question. That's one we've been trying to wrestle with and figure that out too.
So your next one's going to be Karina. Karina, if you unmute, you can ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering how you're going to work with ELD students. Is it like in the same schedule during the day, or will it be outside of the regular school times?
So it could be a combination of both. We're really not wanting to do things outside the school times. We realize that 9 to 2 is already a long time to be at home and in school. The nice thing about the teams working together, especially for ELD and for special ed, both, they're in the same situation of having that needing to be pulled out for some support and the push-in support. The nice thing about teams working together is that enables Mrs. Proctor and Miss Joy to be able to, when all the 4th grade is doing something all together, to be able to say, okay, during this time, send me your 4th grade students that are in ELD so I can support them as they do their work. So it could be that, and it also could be maybe after 2 o'clock or after their special that day, the ELD teacher touching base with the family and the student at home saying, hey, how are things going? What do you need? So it could be a combination of both those things, Karina. Thank you.
So Carrie, you're next if you unmute.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Carrie. How are you? Good to hear you.
Thank you so much for all you've done for this, and thank you to all the teachers. I know this looks like a lot of work and we appreciate it. But you had touched on the first days that the teachers would have kind of one-on-one meet and greets with the families. I'm wondering if there will be one-on-one time with the children as well, and how they're going to just monitor how the children are doing and who is slipping between the cracks, if they're not having those one-on-one times and it's just groups.
Oh, okay. I think I understand so not necessarily the one-on-one times with that August 12th and 13th, but one-on-one times during the instructional day. That's what I'm guessing you're asking. So our goal is to make sure that each teacher has that face-to-face interaction with every kid in their class, either through small group or one-on-one time every day. So it's not feasible, right, to fit one-on-one time in with every kid every day. That would take up the entire day. But throughout that instructional block in the morning and then using some of that time in the afternoon, our goal is with teachers managing student participation in their classroom through Zooms, through the Google Classroom, to be able to make sure that every kid has a chance to connect with their teacher in a small group for instruction or a check-in time in small group every day, or because there's not even enough time to do that during a day and get instruction in, to those students that they haven't been able to check in with in that small group time, they'll have at least one-on-one check-in time to say, all right, Carrie, how are you doing? I didn't see you in a small group today. Do you have any questions? So we want, in a normal classroom, we would have a connection with every kid multiple times during the day. And we think that going into a distance learning model, we want to make sure to maintain that because we want kids staying connected and we need to know how they're doing. We need to make sure they're progressing. So I hope I answered your right question, Carrie. Thank you.
John is up next. Go ahead and unmute John and ask your question. John, can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Yes. Hi, this is Bobby, Julian and Johnny's mom.
Hey, Bobby.
Hi. So my question is this: how do you envision with two working parents who have more than one child in school age, especially the little ones? How do we do that? So I can't possibly, considering that they will need so much assistance even to just to get used to the schedule and to keep up the work. And how do we do that? Because I literally cannot see it and it's impossible for me, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of other parents also freaking out right now.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's it's one thing to have one child you've got to do. It's another thing to have two, or some of our families have four.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
Right, it's and I think that's where I think it's honest to know that, number one, we can't do it without you, especially to start. We're gonna need parents on board to start with, and I totally feel for your situation. I've got it too with being here and my wife working, and we're trying to figure out how to make my first grader learn. I probably should not have said that as a principal. How to help her as she's learning, and we're both working as well. I think that is, I think it's fair. We need to be upfront and realize that in this situation, it's going to require some parent involvement. Our goal is to try to facilitate the learning through what we have. And again, in trying to minimize even the screen time, right, that the kids are on it, to facilitate the learning such that the teacher can be present in the students' lives. The student can be present in the classroom virtually as much as they need to and we can. And so we're playing around with some possible ways, because we've also got the fact that we're trying to balance. Every family is in a totally different spot right now, right? You've got families who are like, please don't put my kid on a Zoom, right? And you've got families saying, please take my kid and engage them the entire time and don't let them out of your sight. So we're trying to balance those two worlds. And so I think that, one with 2 working families, 2 kids at home, hopefully that you're in a case where we can use our community connections even to try to help each other out, and maybe connecting you with some other families or connecting other people with families too. But I think it's not going to be easy. And I wish there was a different answer than that. But there isn't. And it's going to be a partnership between the teacher, between the family, setting those routines up correct in the start of school, so everybody knows, so the kids know, hey, I'm in school. And so I wish there was an easier answer, but it's going to be work on all of our parts, and we're going to have to really coordinate together. Before we jump to the next one, Tricia, that reminded me of another question I'd written down, but then didn't ask it. Because it relates to that one perfectly. I know I got a question beforehand about what about I've got 2 working, both spouse and I are working. Our kids are going to be with grandparents who may not be as technologically savvy, or they're going to be in a different childcare setting. What do we do then? That's another hard spot where the kids need to be in school. And so whoever they're with during the day is going to really need to be helping those students along, engage in school at 9 o'clock, to be ready at school and to help as much as they can. We know everybody's in a different spot. We're going to try the best as we can, just we normally would at school, but there are also limitations to what we're going to be able to do, being remote, not having the kids with us, having that big space literally between us. And so I wish there are easy answers, but there's not. And I think that's where it's going to really take a team. If ever it takes a team, I know, sorry, Tricia, if ever it takes a team, right? With the teacher, with the parent, with the community, it's this time. And so, but really, if any community can do it, it's our community.
Go ahead, Kristen. You can go ahead and ask your.
Hi there. It's great to see you. And John actually has a question.
Our question is actually more of a practical one.
Yeah.
Does the school prefer that the children use the Chromebooks that are provided, or in our case, our kids have their own laptops that they're comfortable with? Would you be happy to them to keep using what they have and leave the other Chromebooks available for anybody else who might need them?
We'd greatly appreciate it. So yes, it's everything we're doing is web-based. And so, so all they need is access to the internet. So if they've got a device at home that they're comfortable on, I can tell you though, tablets are not going to be a good option. They really need a device that's got a screen, it's got a keyboard that they can work and have a window open and not, I know we had a lot of kids on tablets or phones in springtime, and just having to navigate and touch the screen all over, and you lose a lot of features. And so if you've got a laptop at home, you've got a computer at home, desktop, they're comfortable, they want to use it, that's great. The only thing I would say is just know there are more distractions on their personal device than there are on our Chromebooks. So just you will need to, as a parent, make sure to monitor that they don't go get lost in and open that second window and have their game that's on their computer on in the background, and flip back and forth on the screen for those tech savvy kids. But it's especially to start the year, if we can free up some Chromebooks, because we're crossing our fingers that we're getting all of them in on time, and we're kind of refurbishing some and moving some around. So if certain families have laptops that they can use and free up some Chromebooks to start the year, especially, that would be greatly appreciated, and more information coming on that one. So those of you that are wondering or raising your hand right now saying, I don't need one, I can do it, you can keep mine, we will find out who you are. So don't worry. I love our family, our community, our families. I know all of you are thinking that.
Heather, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much. I just want to again express incredible gratitude and appreciation for all of the work that you are all doing. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. and still I'm wanting to figure out how we can pool our community resources. And I understand that the class list will come out on the 7th, and there are a lot of families that just can't be in a classroom for 4 hours a day. And there are a lot of families that can. And I'm wondering if, I think that you probably have a lot of employees that are not going to be working, they're not teachers, that could potentially support that. And I'm wondering how we can pool those resources to find a way to support everyone.
So believe it or not, we don't have many employees who are not working. Between the instructional aides and supporting there, between the childcare that we're trying to make available to our teachers so that they can teach without the distractions, to even the students that absolutely have no way of getting internet, even in the locations where they're at. It's physically impossible to provide internet, to provide a place for them to go that's supervised. Between all those other needs, we don't have actually staff to do that. But what we do have, and I agree completely, our families, our communities are ones that are going to want to do that. And I think that one of the reasons we're needing to work through the PTO is that liability reasons, as a school, we can't help facilitate families connecting together, because you can imagine if one of those goes wrong and we've facilitated that connection, can't be put in that spot. But one thing we can do is, and we've talked about with the PTO, is one possibility, and I'm sure there are better out there, so if you've got those, please email me this one, is even just, a public, basically a public bulletin board. There are many different applications out there you could use, but so where if you needed help certain days a week, if you needed to connect with another family, where you could post your information on this public bulletin board, right? That public to our community, keep it in. And so, but to post that bulletin board to make sure that, to say, hey, Ryan Peterson, I've got a first grader. I cannot find I need childcare on Wednesdays from 12 to noon, or 12 to noon, 9 to noon. Anybody able to help me out? And then here's my contact information, and help families that way. So those of you out there, I know PTO, we started to brainstorm with the executive team, but anybody out there that's got ideas of helping our community connect to one another, to support one another, like Heather mentioned, is something that I know many of you want to do and can do, because there are many of you in a spot of need. And so we want to make that happen. So yes, please email me. Let's connect. Let's brainstorm those ways. I greatly appreciate it.
Laura, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Ryan. I echo everybody's sentiments and thank you guys. Obviously, you've done a ton of work over the last few months and put a lot of work into this. I have kind of two questions. One is that at the beginning of shelter in place and throughout the different surveys that came out, there was a lot of talk of having an option of coming into school or doing it in somewhat of a homeschooling capacity, but still connected with Tularcitos. I'm assuming that that's no longer an option, because I hear a lot about the attendance and being online. And then my second question is, I'm sure you're aware that it doesn't match the other school schedules. I can anticipate it in my family, and I'm sure for others that have older kids, with a middle schooler getting out at noon and expecting the younger ones to stay tied to their computers for longer hours. How important are the afternoon hours? Like at middle school, they're electives and we've opted in or opted out. But here it looks like they're taking a break for lunch and then required, again, attendance in the afternoon. Is there flexibility in that, or?
So, so the homeschool connection, yes, that one, when we're required to law to have them go live and be here and connect in, that option went out. I know got another question that was in the question submitted about basically an independent study type program, or could we just access what you've got and not connect? None of those are options. We have to, if you're enrolled, we have to take attendance. You got to come to school. The not being on the same schedules, yeah, the middle school is starting earlier, and so the afternoon times, by law we have to have, and you can see my face as I'm saying this, right? By law we have to have kids in the upper grades in school, either 3 hours and 50 minutes or 4 hours, and so to start at 9 requires us to go a little after lunch. The reason we put all of our specials after lunch was one, with the hope of we can get all of our academics done in the morning. Then that gives some fun things, for, not that our teachers don't make school fun, they will, right? But it gives kind of the fun, less demanding, maybe, less academically demanding, no offense to some of our teachers, but they know what I mean. The more fun classes in the afternoon. And so, and those are classes I know a lot of our kids love to go to and attend. And I also know that, you know, we've got parents that are wanting their kids in school as much as possible, so to speak, as active as possible in school to stay engaged and to provide them time at home. So my hope is that after lunch, actually kids would want to come back and come back to those specials and to see their classmates again and see the teachers and engage in those activities. I know that, you know, normally our specials run 50 minutes. We're cutting them down to 40, so they're going to be packed. I know our specialists are all very committed to making those fun times. They really value the content that they teach. We all think it's really, really important that students get that time in those specials. And so we want people to take advantage of those. We want students to experience those. So we want students back after lunch to have those specials. And then the other times, other than the specials, when kids aren't in specials, is going to be times for teachers to really check in with kids. This could be some work time for kids to finish assignments, to make sure that they're set and they learned what they need to for that day. And so I think there's a lot of value in the time we have set after lunch. Part of it is required by law that they're there. We will have to kind of take attendance. We've got to account that students are actually in school for that entire time. We can't just take attendance one in the morning and then hands off. We've got to account that they're actually with us the whole time. And we know families are in different situations. Yeah, I appreciate that question, Laura. Thank you.
Mandy, go ahead and unmute and ask your question. If I could just remind everyone, the chat's not being monitored for questions. If you have a question, if you could please raise your hand, we'll put you in the queue for sure.
Hey, Mandy.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, I just wanted to kind of expand on something that was asked earlier. It was mentioned you have a lot of working parents with multiple kids. And on top of that, you also have kids with one-on-one aides for various reasons, to include engagement and participation. How do you envision one-on-one aides working in this distance learning environment?
I think that's where we've got to figure out how to do it at distance, right? With not being in the same room. And so I foresee, and I know there's other discussions happening out there that are in the SPED realm, because this goes beyond our school too, as far as the time with the kids. But I really see those one-on-one aids for some students to have, while they can't be sitting next to them, really working closely with the parents to essentially be a virtually available right there. Like Trisha and I are on this screen right now, where the student's doing the work that I'm assuming all of you see those two things. I don't know, but if I'm the aide and I've got Trisha that I'm working with, to have Trisha at home doing the work where I'm virtually present, to redirect, to be there for questions, to help out. You know, as we can all imagine, if your student's in a spot where, or if there's students that are in a spot where they need a one-on-one aid, the hard part's going to be when you're not present. You know, it's going to be that partnership again with the parents, but I envision the one-on-one aid being there during those school hours to really help out, but also then coordinating with our families. And I know our one-on-one aides have wonderful relationships with the families that they work with. And so working with the parents to figure out, okay, what is the best routine for the day for that student? When is that student at their peak, and let's maximize the time of that student. And then when does that student need more breaks, fewer breaks? What can a one-on-one aide do through a screen to really facilitate as much learning as possible? So that's another one of those areas that's going to be that close relationship, but I see them being as present as possible throughout the day for those students, not just as needed per se, but really present and there in the kids' education.
Molly, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Mr. Peterson.
Hey, Molly.
Hi. Just a quick question. I see that the kindergartners will be going to school from 9:15 to 12. Just curious if my son will get the PE, art, computers, science, etc.
Yes, thank you. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, so kinder will still be there 9 to 12. We're putting the specials in the late morning. We were just talking about that today. So it'll probably be later morning, like 11 or after, that they'll have their specials. So they'll still have their normal specials. So they'll still get science, PE, music, the library time, I forget, computers. They'll still, yes, we'll still get the art, the garden, however we can mesh that in. The one special that our kindergartners don't normally get, and they will continue to not get, is Spanish, but they'll get everything else. It'll just be a shorter time, not the 40 minutes. We're cutting it down a little bit shorter for the kindergartners, as all of you can imagine why.
Sarah Cook, please unmute and ask your questions.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, I'm again one of these parents that's going to be struggling a bit. My husband is stranded in the UK. He went to look after one of our other children who's a college student in the UK and has been stuck there since March. So I'm now looking at having to work out of the home, and I've got one in Tular, one at middle school and two at high school. It's been fine over the summer because the older ones have been able to sort of watch the younger ones, but their schedule is so packed at the high school that they can't do minding or support. So I was just wondering what kind of support would an elementary student need, because I now have to look for some extra outside childcare to, you know, just get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of what sort of person would I need to look for, really? How much support would a child need with the technical part and with organisation if I'm not in the house?
Yeah, so I think one, we'll follow up. But I think the other one, and I should have said this with the other families too. I just want to thank you, those families that have called in that have been vulnerable and in your situation, and just sharing that. I think we can all hear where we're all at, and I think two things. One, I know that, like I said, for every family that's in that tough spot, like I think it was Heather that mentioned, we've got families that are in a spot where they can help, and so I think. Sarah, for your spot too, just one, trying to connect you with some other families, but I think also, I think that's where I get back to, you know, obviously in the beginning, all the kids are going to need a little more assistance, but our goal is really as much as we possibly can, right, over time, and the fifth graders will get here much faster than the first graders will, right, and the kindergartners then, is to structure the day so we can try to keep the kids in school and kind of at our fingertips and try to really facilitate the learning by the younger ones too, is that as far as the, when it's time for them to go off and work independently, setting timers so they know when to come back in, to put them in waiting rooms so that we can grab them back and right from the computer, and we can bring them back in from the waiting room when they're working independently, right? So we can pull them right back in and say, okay, I'll use Rob this time. Trisha, I'll let you off the hook. Rob, it's time for you to work in your small group with me. We want to try as much as possible to get to a point where our students can be independent with their learning at home, and have us facilitate that, because we know families are in a spot where they've got to work. Like the families have come in so far where they're in a hard spot, where it is you're a single parent and you've got 4 kids. And so, I think 1, trying to use our community to connect. 2, knowing that we'll need to connect with teachers to get family support, to know the situation that you're in, to make accommodations, to allow things maybe to not take place during the normal times, but when maybe get things done in a little bit later time. We know everybody's in a unique spot. We want to try to accommodate those as much as we can, but also stay within the non-burnout of the teachers as well. And so, I appreciate the vulnerability in that question. Shoot me an email too, Sarah. And I guess and I will, PTO, we're going to meet, and we'll figure out how to get that community connection going. Really feeling that push to try to get that going sooner, so we can connect people together. And even I know we want to support one another, because I know somebody even put in the questions prior, saying, hey, what about the new families? Can we have we always have new welcome buddies. Can we have family welcome buddies? It's something we wanted to do for a while, and it's nice to see families volunteering to do that too, to say, hey, I'll be the welcome buddy for my class, and reach out to the new families. And I know we'll still have room parents to get PTO coordinated. So we'll be talking with our executive board. We'll figure out how to get that done, and work closely with you that are in hard situations to make this a year that, even though it's hard, that we can thrive. So thank you, Sarah, for that question and putting yourself out there like that. I really appreciate that. I can't imagine being gone from my spouse that long. Can't even imagine. Yeah.
Katie, go ahead and unmute and ask your question, please.
Hi, Katie. If it's Katie.
Katie, you're still muted. If you can unmute.
There. Oh.
So Katie, I'm gonna.
Can you get it, Katie? Oh, go ahead, Trisha. Sorry.
It's all right. Katie, I'll put you back in the queue, and if you can unmute soon, then we'll let you go. So I'm going to move on to Angelina in just 1 second. Angelina, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Thank you.
Hey there.
Hi. So, I think as many of the families are having, many different feelings about moving from the old to the new, a question that has come up just in terms of creating different co-op systems, supporting parents. What do you think about having, enabling multiple students in the same grade to be together while they, if it's a small family group and we're rotating homes, share that portion together? Do you think that is a possibility in terms of the children being able to focus but also being able to, you'd said, please have them be in a room that's quiet. There's dogs, there's all these different things in the background. I'm imagining,
Oh, yeah.
how do we take care of all of these different situations? I work from home, I have calls multiple times, my husband works from home. So, and then having 2 children, on calls and trying to keep them quiet. So, lots to navigate, as you already know, and many people have talked about. Curious what your thoughts are about, children in the same grade, possibly because they'll be doing the similar things. Do you feel like that could be something that's possible?
I think it's a great strategy. I think it's a great idea. I think that in that, number one, we have to remember that all families are in a different spot of their comfort level as far as how many people they're wanting to expose their family to, and that's right all over the board. From we are going to be home, we're going to do as little of anything as we possibly can, all the way to, I know we've probably got families that are like, hey, this, let's just, the more the merrier. And so I think that within that range, though, I think that if you could find other families, one, that you trust their lifestyle, that you trust how they're going to interact with when they're not away from you, so that you're not inadvertently putting yourself in a spot of exposure that you don't want to be in unknowingly. So I think there's that aspect of things, and I think to your point is a good one as far as how many people's reasonable, right? How many? I think that's where you've got to look at the space that you have. Obviously, if you're bringing multiple families together, I think somebody who works for the state, essentially, in the government, you need to follow those guidelines still of trying to, depending on how many families you have or how well you're cohorting, right? Are you really staying true to each other's boundaries? And but as far as how many kids you would put in a room, depending on how big that room is, as far as having headsets can be a really good thing. I know we'll have earbuds for kids, but it's trying to reduce that distraction level. I guess all that's a long way of saying, one, it depends on your comfort level as a family and as an individual as far as how many people you would want to bring together in a cohort. I don't think that a lot of people coming together is a good idea. I think that will be more distracting and harder and just unnecessary there. But I think, having 2 families connect, maybe 3 if they're small families, and sharing that load, and then spreading the kids out so that they can engage and not totally distract each other. But yeah, I know my 6-year-old daughter was the second most seen person in all of my Zooms last spring, because I couldn't go through a Zoom call without her coming into my bedroom or banging on my door when it was locked, to do what I needed to do. So I get that distraction. It's very real. And so I think you need to figure out what you're comfortable with, find a family that's with that same comfort level, and then do everything you can at home to make it so that the kids can really engage at school and not get distracted from each other during the learning time. But then possibly, when they are working independently, they can come together at the table and get some work done together if they need to.
Try this one more time. Katie, can you unmute? On the upper right, on those 3 dots of your screen, if you click on that, you should be able to unmute yourself.
These ones.
Okay, so Katie, I'm going to put...
If we don't connect, Katie, shoot me an email so I can get back to you.
Trish Hansen, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Trish.
Hey, Ryan. How you guys? I'm just wondering, I know attendance is now being required and I understand that. I'm just curious what you guys are looking at as far as communities that don't have reliable internet. I know there was a survey that went out and I did fill it out about doing a hotspot. I don't think it'll be successful, but I'll give anything a try. But I'm just wondering if in fact it is not successful, what is going to be done or what modifications are going to be made so that the kids are getting the time that they, or at least known that they're participating in school.
Yeah, so I think there's a few different layers to that. So yeah, I appreciate putting in the survey. So I think that number one, the goal is try to get you reliable internet where you're at. One, it's just easier on the family, right? And so I appreciate you. Thank you for putting in that survey, so that I think that's the first step. So if anybody's out there and they are in a spot, they're like, I don't think a hotspot's going to work. I would say let's try it out first. Rob is amazing, one of our IT guys, as far as trying to get things to work, and working with different companies, different businesses to make things happen. If we can't get internet access to you where you're at, we are working to try to open up different spaces, depending on where you're at, potentially either for our community, potentially having a spot at school somewhere where there can be a room that you can access, where a child could access to get on the internet, potentially out in the Shawa Children's Center, out there to be able to access the internet. And so I think those are the two options. We know we need to get it to you, and I think then also realizing for some of those families, though, the internet's not an option. Our plan is still to get hands-on materials to people. We don't want kids sitting at home just sitting there going. We want to get hands-on materials to you, and so if you're in a spot where can't get internet and we've tried everything we can try there, your family life is such that getting to an alternate location is not possible, because I can very much imagine that. Then we make some workarounds, right, in trying to engage and make sure that students are staying as caught up as possible with the work that they have at home. Still trying to find a way to connect regularly with the teacher, and hopefully ideally with the classroom too, so they feel part of that class community. So there's a few different things that we can try, and hopefully one of those will work out.
So Deanna is going to be next, but it looks like she might have an older version of Zoom. So Deanna, do you have another means to log in, a different device?
Deanna, you can always, or email me too, Deanna, or
that's fine.
Okay.
Deanna, just re-raise your hand. I'm going to lower your hand, and when you're ready, just re-raise your hand and we'll make sure we get you back in, okay? I just want to do a quick time check as well. We're at 7:18, and max we can do is the 2 hours with wrap up.
Yeah.
So
we'll be able to, so we'll be able to take a few, and I know we got to be off at 7:30 for sure. Hard stop at 7:30 so the program doesn't shut us off mid.
So, and Deanna, you won't lose your place. So we got you. So I'm going to allow Lee to talk. Just a moment.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey Ryan, how are you?
Good, how are you? Okay, now I know who it is. I was like, okay, who is?
It's Leah Mendoza.
Yep. Hi there.
And I've hesitated to ask this question because I feel like I'm an N of one, but just-
Okay, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, and as I've listened to everybody's kind of individual plights, I do realize there probably are other families that have children with a 504 plan who are dealing with kids that have a disability or a physical impairment. And I find it ironic, you know, that we relocated our family to be at a school so that we could have support for Emery with diabetes. And now we're back in a situation where we're taking care of teaching and nursing. And I just wondered, you know, what has been discussed, if at all, from kind of the federal and state level regarding kids that have special needs. I mean, clearly you can't have a nurse come to every single child's home, but I just was curious as to what had been talked about for children with special needs. Does that all fall on the parents now, or would there be any type of school support in light of the recent circumstances?
Yeah, and you're not you're not the only one too. I know there's a few other families I've heard from too that we moved to come to Tular and now we're on distance learning. The hard part about all of the 504, the IEPs, all the federally mandated law, things that fall under the federal law, is it's ever changing. It even changed today on what we're able to do to support those students as far as bringing them in to a school potentially, like, you know, I'm talking about, actually that's for internet access when they can't have it, and then what we can do. And so it's constantly changing as to what is allowed to do, how we're allowed to service. I think because those situations are so individualized, right? That's why they're on an individualized education plan or 504, because they're so individualized. It's hard to make policy or establish guidelines that are brand new in a new environment that overreach all of those situations. And so I think that, sorry, I'm looking at my speaker because that's where you were speaking from, but you're over there. For the 504s, we just had a meeting this morning on what we're going to do for those, and we're waiting on some other guidance as to what accommodations those look like and what paperwork we need to do to fill out to keep those going. And so it is a big discussion. It's a complicated problem to solve because it's so individualized to every student. And so we've got to figure that out. And so because they are at school, so they're with us, but then they're at home with you. And so we've got to, that's where it comes back to that. We've got to work with you and your family to figure out what that support looks like, and how we provide that in partnership with you. So I know that's very vague, but I think the big thing is things are constantly changing in that realm, in special ed and 504 worlds, on how we can service students and what's required under all the different restrictions. Hey, Deanna.
Okay, Deanna, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I know we're on a time constraint here, so I'm going to be quick, but I just had an idea listening to the families, you know, that are needing childcare, and I have a friend in San Jose, completely different area, but I remember her talking about their school before this whole COVID thing happening, their school having an app that was specific to their school, where parents can communicate with each other and parents can communicate with teachers, and it kind of brings that community together. And have we, and I think that the lower grades, you know, River and Tular would benefit greatly from this. I mean, middle and high school too, but something other than like Facebook, you know, that is specific for our school that we can all communicate together and get us together. Are we even looking at anything like that? Or
from the school perspective for kids in classes,
it's for the teachers.
Yes, but that's what I'm in my mind. I'm like, yeah, that could be very nice to have one app that the community is on, for everybody that wants to be, right? I really like that idea. We'll have to chat, or you'll have to find out from your friend which app they're talking about. I can think of a couple potential different ones that could be set up. So to help families connect that want to be connected. So I appreciate that idea and that brainstorm. I think we'll need to do that. So, Trisha, if we can make this the last one, so I can say something too before we get cut off on our program.
Of course, Noah, you're it.
I'm sorry. Hello. This is
Hey, Noah.
actually hi. This is actually Jessica Heinrichs. I'm Noah's
Hey,
mom.
Jessica.
How are you?
Good.
I just had a quick question on how you might envision the parents interacting within the classroom, because if the students are needing technical support, at least in a more hands-on way in the beginning, you know, in a way that that the parents used to help out in the classroom when we were at the school site. Are you envisioning the parents like actually, you know, sort of participating with the student in the beginning, or are we supposed to really just sort of be off to the side and letting the teacher, like, I'm not sure how that, like, assistance and interaction, like how much interaction we're to have within the classroom so that we're not disruptive.
Yeah, I appreciate the tug that you're finding yourself in right there. I think that's yeah, living in that pole from two different directions. I appreciate the thought in that. And I think it's going to be different based on the grade level of the student. So and I think that's where that'll be a good question to ask at a back to school night too. Will be how much in the beginning I can see being right there as far as really helping the student navigate, clicking around, trying to find out where they're going to go, and then gradually kind of giving the student more leash, so to speak, as far as, okay, now, you know, you click there. I showed you how to do it as a parent. Now it's your turn to click there. Trying to, as much as possible, be that silent help from the side, so that you aren't causing a lot of disruption, and gradually stepping back further and further and further, because we want, again, it's that building to independence, right? And so in the beginning, much more involvement, to all the way back to, you know what, there's a you know, even with homework, all related to that, when students are doing homework, we can be tempted to jump in there. There's a lot of, I don't want to call them homework experts, but people that study a lot on homework, and the less interaction from the parent, the better. Really, it should be that as students working independently, you know, I know somebody who once, you know, gave the student 2 tokens or 2 M&Ms. They only could ask the parent two questions during their homework time, because the parent knew if you've got that many questions, you didn't learn it, you need to ask your teacher. So but for in this situation, that helping as little as possible, but being there in the beginning to really assist is going to be vital. So I could see, depending on grade level, you needing to be there a little at the beginning, but then our goal is to get them on and then give them an activity, so you could hopefully step back for the next 10 to 15 minutes, let the teacher take over, right? I'm thinking the kindergartner levels, and then 5th grade a little bit, obviously a little bit more, parent can step to the side. So I appreciate that. I really appreciate the thought that you put into that, with as far as wanting to do just the right amount. And I think as long as you're asking yourself that question, that's a good place to be, because that'll keep you from wanting to do too much. And so really appreciate that. All right, so Trisha, unless you tell me otherwise, we're gonna have to wrap this up. I should go ahead and wrap. I miss all of you a ton. It's really great to hear your voices. One of the things that I always loved about being here was being able to have it on the first day, see families again, see parents again, see students again, and all the hugs. It's gonna be hard to not get those. And so please, those of you that are comfortable getting hugs from a principal, please know that hug from me to you. And so just thank you for the support that you're providing us. Thank you for being invested in not only your own child's education, but the education of all the kids in our community. Really feeling that tonight, just one, the hard place that people are in, and 2, the love that other people have for the community and wanting to help out. We have, you know, we've always been a village, even before before it became a big quote that it takes a village, before that became a common quote out there. We had our village, and so I know that we will continue to be a very strong village, and do this together and support one another, to work with the teachers and the parents, myself, all the support staff, to really make this possible. So I just want to thank you for that. Thank you for ahead of time, and make sure, just to reiterate, this is going to take us time to get going in the beginning. Like I said in the beginning, I was nervous doing this, right, for basically the first time doing the whole thing by myself. You can imagine a teacher walking into it. I've got 3-4 people in the background doing things to make this run smooth. You can imagine what it's like for a teacher coming into it going, this is me, and I need to help. I need to rely on the parent being there to help me get through this, to start and to get things going, and to set the right routine, and to set the right standard for what's expected in my classroom. And so, sorry. So we greatly appreciate that just that understanding of coming into that and that situation. Understand the situation we're in of getting things going, and the glitches that will happen along the way. I really want to encourage us to go back to that what if though. What if this is the chance that we can build our patience with one another too, right? But yeah, what if this can be the best year yet? What if this can be the year that our students thrive more than ever, that they become more confident than ever, that families grow stronger together than ever, that our community comes together like it never has before, that our teachers can make curriculum and instructional choices that enable them to teach like they've never taught before. And what if this is a chance to build partnerships between the school and the home like we never had before, even though we've had amazing ones before. So I just want to thank you for being here tonight. If you've got further questions, please go ahead, feel free to email me. I look forward to seeing you walk by around school on the 11th when you come to pick up your stuff. Please stay attuned to your email, not only from me, but from the district. Every communication we send out right now is vital. So please take the time to read those. Please know that when school starts up again, we're going to direct everything, try to keep the communication concise to you and what you need, and use that Google Classroom platform to get to you. And teachers will still communicate like they normally would every now and then with the emails, but it won't be the barrage like it was in the spring. So because we want to have the kids with us during the day. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. I can't wait to see you. Hopefully, when I start doing those principal Zooms, you'll jump on and we can chat and see each other there. So look forward to that. I hope you enjoy the last little bit of summer, and look forward to starting the year off well, building relationships and getting to know one another again. So have fun, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great weekend coming up. We'll see you soon. Bye.